Yo, what is good everyone? OJ here. Welcome to another discussion video. Today we're going to be talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and how it got snubbed from the Game Awards 2018. So let me first explain how the Game Awards works just a little bit, and then we can kind of get into how Xenoblade Chronicles 2 got snubbed from pretty much every single category. So first, Jeff Keighley, obviously he puts everything together. There is a panel of people out there, whether it's like journalists, people who play all the different games. Their votes are pretty much the most important ones. However, we as the fans have like a 10% stake in the votes and kind of what goes down. However, they're the ones who pick the games for the nominees, and then we get to vote on that, which helps out in deciding who wins the Game of the Year category. That's the basic rundown of it. Obviously, there's more that goes into it, but you guys can check out the full details on the website and kind of how they do things there. Jeff Keighley's also very open about how they kind of select things and everything like that. However, what he isn't open about is how Xenoblade Chronicles 2 got snubbed. So first and foremost, I'm not mad or angry, and I'm still super excited for the Game Awards. I think it's going to be a fantastic show. It's going down December 6th, I think, so it's going to be right there. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be streaming it, and regardless of who wins or loses or whatever the case is, I'm still going to have a lot of fun watching and streaming the event. Last year was really cool, so I'm looking forward to this year. But Xenoblade Chronicles 2 definitely got snubbed, and let's go into why and how it got snubbed. So one of the problems, at least what some people think with the Game Awards, is that everything's kind of going down in November, right? We start voting and everything, and games that haven't been released yet are not eligible. So right off the bat, there's going to be games that were released in late November or November in general that just aren't going to get enough playtime, aren't going to get enough airtime, or whatever the case is, to be in this year's award show. So that's the first major problem, because the award show goes down on December or early December. So there's a lot of games that don't get an opportunity to be in the show just because they came out too late. And I think that even some developers might even push their games forward a bit just so they can try to get into that Game of the Year discussion, because the later the game releases, the harder and harder it is for more people that are going to be voting on the Game of the Years and everything to actually play the game, get everything out that you need to get out about it, and really compare and contrast with all the games that came out earlier in the year. So that's the first problem there. So what's the solution for some of these things? Well, one, you can have the Game Awards in January, so that gives people more time. But then again, you have to look at it on the other side, and it's advertising bucks, right? Advertising bucks are far more valuable, and you'll get more if you do events in the holiday December than if you do them in January after the holiday. So that's just something that's a fact, and they're obviously not going to move it because of that. So that's the one thing that we can just pretty much flat out rule out, right? Moving the show. But I would like to see if they can just extend it just a bit more, but it's still not going to be able to do what we want it to do at this point, which is get the December games. And that's the biggest issue here, guys, because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 mainly got snubbed because it was out of sight, out of mind. The game released at the very end of the year. It was December 1st, 2017 that the game released, so it's not eligible for the awards for that year, so it carries over to next year. However, there's all these other games that came out in that time frame, all these other games, and it just kind of ends up being out of sight and out of mind, like I stated before. And because people aren't thinking about it, a lot of the reviewers have already played so much other stuff, so it's not that the game wasn't good enough to be nominated, or the game basically didn't have the right people working on it, or whatever the case was. It's not that. It's just that the game released at the very end of the year, and people have already forgot about that when it comes to Game of the Year awards. And there's been other games that have came out and impressed. For example, another Switch RPG was Octopath Traveler. They got nominated for multiple awards that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 probably should have been in. So that's one of the major reasons why it was snubbed. Now, another reason why it was snubbed was because of some of the Western press with the type of game that it is. I think that the game is a very tedious game at times, I guess, for some people in terms of the amount of content. It's a very large game. There's so much stuff to do in the game, and what we're seeing now at this point, a lot of reviewers like to see games that are completely simplified when it comes to some of the mechanics and RPG and kind of like what they do inside there. If things are complicated a bit, some of these reviewers can get a little paranoid about playing the game and giving it good review scores or not. Now, Xenoblade 2 still got really good review scores. I think it's like an 83 on Metacritic or something like that, but the game definitely didn't launch in its best shape, and I think that's also another problem. Now, if you played the game in 2018, or if you were playing the game as it was being updated and everything, then definitely the game got better and better. A lot of quality of life stuff, still the same type of game. Performance was still around the same. They improved it a bit, but that was a big hit for the game, in my opinion, that there was not certain quality of life things in terms of the map and the features and organization. A lot of that stuff wasn't in at launch, so you've got a lot of these reviewers who already kind of like a little skeptical when it comes to playing these massive games with all these different elements inside there, all these different things to do, and they have deadlines or whatever the case is. Then on top of that, you've got some quality of life issues with organization, with doing certain things, the core crystals opening, kind of organization with your blades and all of that, and it just creates some issues when it comes to the game. So I think that was also a problem as well, and that's not necessarily the fault of the reviewers per se or anything like that. That's just something that Takahashi and crew couldn't get everything and all of the updates with the quality of life stuff in at launch to make it in December or whatever the case is, but they did a really good job of updating the game afterwards. However, a really good job of updating the game afterwards doesn't mean that you're going to get continued play into 2018, despite there being new content, despite there being new updates and making the game better for the most part. I don't think a lot of these went back and actually experienced that, because if they did, then we would have probably had Xenoblade Chronicles 2 maybe in the game of the year. But I think that they just played it for whatever they needed to play, and then they moved on to the next thing and moved on to the next game. So that's also another big reason why, in my opinion, just because the launch wasn't as smooth when it comes to quality of life as it could have been. So that's unfortunate, but at the same time, I still think Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where there was the biggest snub, and I'm not even talking about RPG of the year or role-playing game of the year. That wasn't the biggest snub for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The biggest snub, which didn't have any issues at all, was the OST, or the score of the year. The fact that Yasunori Mitsuda, a legendary producer, he produced some of the greatest games when it comes to music scores of all time, Chrono Trigger being one of them. The fact that his score for this game, the OST, was not nominated despite having some of the best music. Universally looked at it. If you look at what some of the peers were saying about the music, you look at what some of the people were saying, this is some of the best music out there. The fact that it wasn't nominated for the score or OST of the year was a shame, and that to me is the biggest snub. And I think it kind of comes down to like why and how this happened was just because of out of sight, out of mind with this one here. I think a lot of the reviewers probably realized how good the soundtrack was, because that was one of the major things that people said in reviews, even if they didn't like the game too much, that hey, this is what's like really good, like the music is really good in the game, yet there was no nomination for that, which was just so unfortunate and the biggest snub. I mean, I don't see how they could miss that one. Obviously myself, I play Xenoblade Chronicles, so I guess it's easier for me to say because I was playing it in 2017, I was playing it in 2018, I was going along with the updates. I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torn of the Golden Country, which also got snubbed, by the way, for many different things, but I guess that's a little bit different, right? But the fact that even both of those games, right, when you have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torn of the Golden Country, and then you also have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, if you combine those OSTs, it's one of the best OSTs ever, easily, with the remixes and everything, and no nods at all. That was probably the biggest snub when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for me and the Game Awards. However, guys, I still think it's okay. Obviously, Octopath Traveler got plenty of nominations, and it might win an award or two, and I think overall people are looking at the Game Awards Awards for the most part, and just saying, hey, this is kind of just like a fun type of award show to where we can get new announcements, and that's the biggest thing here. And while Xenoblade Chronicles 2 might have got snubbed for OST of the Year or Music of the Year, and also a nomination for RPG of the Year, I still feel that maybe, just maybe, this can motivate Monolith Soft to kind of get their next game and kind of brush up and make sure all of those little things, the quality of life stuff, is there for the next game at launch, so you don't have those same issues whenever the game does come out. So I think that it's going to be a motivating thing. I think that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and the fans out there are really going to support the game even more. I think there was even a lot more publicity because the game did get snubbed here and there, and we do have $35 for Black Friday and all that. There's going to be sales on the game throughout the holiday, so I think more and more people are even going to be picking it up. Nintendo has revealed that this game, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, is the best-selling Monolith Soft title ever, with more than 1.5 million units sold, so that's definitely good, and I think more and more people are going to get into Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and just get into the franchise now at this point. And we don't even have the sales for Torn of the Golden Country. I'm guessing that if you include those in there, it's definitely near 2 million units or something like that. So what do you guys think about Monolith Soft? What do you guys think about the snub and my thoughts on the matter? What are your reasons why Xenoblade Chronicles 2 got snubbed? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Really helps to spread the content of PlayerEssence across the internet in addition to YouTube. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube live gaming pages. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you ninja for the next video. Peace.